So I'd like to welcome everybody to the first ever Bagby and Shield Your Body webinar, How to Create a Sleep Sanctuary. We all know that you have a lot of things going on in your life, and we really appreciate you taking the time to set aside to spend with us today. So before we begin, two quick notes. Like I just said before I started the recording, you will get the replay link tomorrow in your inbox. We will have a Q&A session at the end. So if you have questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A pod. That's the question and answer pod that is separate from the chat pod. And that's what we'll be looking at to answer your questions. Briefly about me, my name is R. Blank. I'm the CEO of both Bagby and Shield Your Body, as well as the host of the Healthier Tech podcast. Previously served on the faculty at the University of Southern California Viterbi School of Engineering. And before that, co-authored Overpowered, along with my father, Dr. Martin Blank. That's on the science of EMF radiation health effects. And this all follows a 20-year career in software engineering. So I'm the host tonight, but I'm not the star. I'm not the guest speaker. The guest is Cathy Cooke. Cathy is board certified in holistic nutrition. She's a certified building biology environmental consultant. She's certified electromagnetic radiation specialist and a certified residential mold inspector. She's also the senior EMF consultant for Shield Your Body and a health educator for the St. Luke's Health System. So with that, welcome, Cathy.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm trying to start my video, but you need to enable that possibility for me.
There you go. All you had to do was ask.
Awesome. There. Okay, cool. Well, thanks. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so we can look at the agenda for today. Um, Actually, let's go. How's that look? You can see that all right?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Well, yeah. Thanks, everybody for joining. I'm excited that you are here. Oh, or you might want to mute yourself. That seat was too
Apologies.
loud.
That was my boom stand, and I will mute myself.
Cool. Yeah, so very glad you are all here to talk about my favorite topic, which is sleep. So I'm going to go over my story real quick and why this is a topic of interest for me and why sleep is important. We're just going to go through that super fast so that we can get into the meat of the topic today so you can learn how to create a sleep sanctuary, which is going to include all of these things: light, the electroclimate, sound, comfort, air quality, etc. So we'll get into all of that. Art has some special announcements he's going to go over, and then we'll have a Q&A. So I love the Q&A part because I love to be able to answer your specific questions. So stick around for that if you've got, and they can be questions about anything. Sleep, EMF, mold, air quality, all good stuff. All right, so my story. Why should you listen to me? Oh, this is such a painful picture for me to look at. So I suffered with severe insomnia for about 15 years. And this is me at my worst when I was doing some preservation work out in the middle of the Wyoming forest. It was kind of my dream job, working on an old Forest Service cabin, and I wasn't sleeping at all. And I mean, some nights I wouldn't even sleep a minute. And I was so toxic and so stressed and had so much cortisol. The mosquitoes were tearing me apart. They'd bit my eye, so you can see that that's swollen shut. It was the most miserable experience. Yet I was living my life and doing my dream job, and it was amazing. But I wasn't sleeping, and that made it miserable. So during the course of this 15 years, I did all the things. Probably, if anyone here has had sleep issues, you know what that means. I saw dozens of doctors. I saw shamans. I did energy work. I tried, the chamomile tea and the sleepy time tea. And I did all of the the supplements and even tried pharmaceuticals because I'm not into pharmaceutical sleep aids, but if you go 15 years and you're not sleeping, you're going to do whatever it takes. So I tried everything. I was not getting much help. I spent thousands on cognitive behavioral therapy and neurofeedback. Yeah, I did everything and nothing helped until I figured out that the environment was a massive contributor to my sleep issues. So for me, it was mostly EMF. Once I put the pieces together and I was like, oh, my Wi-Fi and my phone and the electricity in my walls, and I started to mitigate all of those, I saw dramatic improvements within a few days. And so, but I still had a lot more work to do because there's a lot more than just EMF, right? Your circadian rhythm, air pollution, which I never would have imagined can contribute to my sleep, which we're going to get into. And the most frustrating thing for me is not one doctor ever asked me about my environment. Not one. None of them asked me about my circadian rhythm. None of them asked me about my blood sugar. I mean, it was my diet, like nothing, my toxic exposure, nothing. Out of dozens of doctors, even holistically minded doctors, none of them asked me about these things. So that was super frustrating. Thankfully, I started to understand the connection so that I could make changes. And what I found is that the major key to understand is what habits work against us and how we can adapt. Meaning, circadian rhythm, diet, our electro environment, all of this stuff I just mentioned. How is that working against us, and what can we do to change those things so that we can actually sleep? And thank goodness that that worked for me. So now, I'm sleeping. When I'm doing preservation work, I sleep in my van and I sleep, and it's it's a completely different experience. I like it again. I like doing preservation work when I get the opportunity. And I travel quite a bit for inspections and EMF assessments, and it's amazing how much better you do when you're sleeping and well rested. So through that journey, I learned to help others sleep as well, and it's been amazing. So, very quickly, why do we care about sleep? In America, we really like to go hard and say, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Um, I think that's a horrible mantra because I want to, the years that I have left, I want to live healthy and happy and feel good. And if I'm not sleeping, that's not going to happen. So, sleep is super important for numerous reasons. Poor sleep is associated with so many things: cardiovascular disease, dementia, and Alzheimer's, which personally I have many risk factors for Alzheimer's. I'm trying very hard to prevent that. Sleep is key. Metabolic conditions, weight management, hormone imbalance, low libido, pain and headaches, mood disorders, anxiety, depression. I mean, it's all of it. If we're not sleeping, our body can't repair. Our hormone levels get off. Our leptin and ghrelin, which is our hunger hormones, are out of whack. So we eat more and we reach for food that is not helpful. We get into arguments with our children and our spouse. We don't perform well at work, like everything. It impacts everything. So, yeah, I'm curious for anybody that wants to put in the chat, what does it do for you? What are the main triggers for you? For me, I get irritable, I get cranky, I get brain fog, and I can't perform very well. I'd be curious to hear from some of you what challenges you experience when you're not sleeping. Okay, so let's get into what we really want to talk about, the steps to create a sleep sanctuary. So there are countless things that help us sleep well. Like I mentioned, circadian rhythm, blood sugar balancing, diet, sometimes supplements. But what we're going to talk about specifically today is how can we create a sanctuary so that we can get restful sleep. So very, very important that we have an environment conducive to sleep. So we're going to talk about that. And the first thing I want to mention is light. So light is critical for your circadian rhythm and your melatonin production. So if you are not sleeping well, and you are getting exposed to bright light during the hours where you should be asleep, or even the evening hours, your body is going to suppress melatonin release. It's not going to release that melatonin. Instead, it's going to keep releasing cortisol, and your sleep is going to suffer a lot. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I went a little too quickly. So anyway, managing light. We should have a very dark bedroom, as dark as possible. I understand that some people need a little bit of light for some reasons, and I'll talk about how you can do that. But even the tiniest little bit of light can signal to your brain, daytime, it's daytime. Don't produce melatonin, don't secrete melatonin, but let's have a little cortisol here so we can be active. It's not what we want. So if you live in the city or even in a suburb or somewhere where there's street lights, whatever, maybe blackout curtains can be helpful. For some people that works. You want to minimize those electronics that have that little blinking light, even your alarm clock. For some people, even those tiny little lights, like your air purifier, or if you have a TV in the room, which I hope you don't, that little light on there is enough for some people to really impact their melatonin secretion. So you need to minimize the electronics. Eye masks, I'm a huge fan of eye masks. That's what I do. So I don't have to worry so much about what my neighbors are doing or the street lights or the bright moon even. I wear an eye mask, and boy, I've got like 4 pairs, because if for some reason I lose one, the laundry sucked it up somehow, or I lose it while traveling, I've got a backup because it's that important to me. I panic if I don't have my eye mask. So super, super important. Okay, your electroclimate. So obviously, or maybe not obviously, when I'm talking about the electroclimate, I'm talking about EMF, which I know our audience is very familiar with. That's probably how you got here today, is because you're interested in EMF. So we definitely want to minimize the EMF in our bedroom. Critical. And like I mentioned before, one of the main things that I dealt with and how I got my sleep back. So what does this mean? Well, first of all, the science demonstrates a very clear link between EMF and poor sleep. And I would say for most of my clients, that's the number one response I get after I do an assessment and we help to reduce the EMF in their home in general, is that they have better sleep. Even the non-believers will tell me, yeah, I didn't really think you know, um, were correct when you told me not to sleep with my phone in my bedroom, but I actually slept much better. So it definitely, it's crucial. So again, in the chat, I want you to think for a second and think about how much EMF is in your bedroom, and type in there if you can think of any sources. Do you have a TV, an alarm clock, air purifier? Are the breakers on overnight? Do you have stuffed animals that produce radio frequency? Because yes, those exist. Is there a smart meter on the opposite side of the wall? So Brian says alarm clock and maybe a wall clock. Yep. Anjali says she's reduced a lot of EMS and it didn't help. Okay, we're gonna get to that, Anjali. Used to be R says it used to be your lamp, but when I pointed that out to you, you got rid of it. Amazing. Ooh, Joan, electric blanket. Awesome. Yeah, let's talk about that. Those are really high with electric fields and magnetic fields. Sell by in a nearby park, says Mark. Oh man, bummer. Gabriella says no EMF in the bedroom, but some comes through the neighbors. Yeah. Yeah, so some of these things we can't control to the best of our ability, but there are things you can do in your bedroom to shield from your neighbors, for example. And there's things you can do to shield. Nancy says BiPAP. Yeah, that's an issue too we can talk about. So lots of things, and so many more things today than there ever were before. Our parents didn't grow up, well, most of us didn't grow up with smart speakers and a cell tower outside and a PEMF mat and the neighbor's Wi-Fi. So yeah, these are all things that we need to consider. So a lot of us have a lot more in our bedrooms than we care to admit. Alarm clocks, I just want to point out real quickly, they are deceivingly high producers of magnetic fields. Now, thankfully, they don't travel very far, but if it is right next to if it's on your nightstand right next to your pillow, move that away a foot, because just that foot distance is amazing and it'll dramatically reduce that magnetic field. You just don't want it right next to you. But it's got the light too, so we need to consider that. And it's got to plug into the wall, so it's going to have an electric field. So we need to think about like battery powered alarm clocks would be better. You can actually use your phone if it's in airplane mode, Bluetooth off, Wi-Fi is off, and it's at a distance from you. So, deceiving little appliances like that. Sleep number bed, Peggy says, yeah, we're going to talk about that. That's a big one. We're definitely going to talk about that in a minute. So what do you do about all this? Well, we're going to de-electrify, right? Unplug. So what can you unplug in your room? The bedside lamps, the TV, sound bar, most of us have everything plugged in our house all the time. And did you know that you are paying for that 24/7? If that's plugged in, it's got electricity going from the outlet to the device. It's not on, but that electricity is still sitting there in the cord, and you're going to have a high electric field just from that cord. It doesn't matter if the light is on. If the cord is going behind your bed, you have an increased electric field there from the cord, and you're paying for it. So we need to unplug. And Nancy, who said she's got an electric or an adjustable bed, unplug it. So those have very high electric fields, sometimes magnetic fields, sometimes radio frequency, sometimes dirty electricity. They can have all four fields. So what I tell people to do is adjust it and then unplug it. So get it to where you want it, put it on a power strip, turn the power strip off before you go to bed. So you can have it, adjusting so you can get to your comfort level. As long as you unplug it, you're good. So no phones in the bedroom. So yes, somebody asked earlier, Bobby asked, can you have the phone on airplane mode? Yes, you can. All the antennas need to be turned off though. So you need to make sure you've disabled Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Some phones have like a tracking system that you also need to turn off, and it's got to be in airplane mode. And you need to think about the blue light, right? So if you turn it, if you're like, oh, what time is it? And you reach over and touch it to see what time it is, you've just got a huge dose of blue light, and boom, your brain's like, morning, daytime. So you need to be very, very careful about your practices there. I really don't love TVs in the bedroom for various reasons, not only because it's in a big electronic device and these days it's probably smart and it's emitting. Even if it's turned off, it is emitting 24/7, that radio frequency. You can unplug it, but I prefer no TV in the bedroom because also it's we're going to get into this a little bit in a minute, but that mental stimulation. Let's say you were watching news before you went to bed and you were watching news about the upcoming election. I don't care who you are, that's stressful. That stuff is stressful. And then you're going to go to sleep. You're probably not going to sleep very well because whatever you were just told is going to make you very worried about the end of the world. And so I don't recommend it. Um, TVs belong in another area where we are active and alert. So hopefully not in the bedroom. Minimize electronics, like I've been saying. Even, air purifiers, fans, stuff like that. I understand those are important, but if we can get them at a distance from you, that's much better. So, I don't run an air purifier in my bedroom overnight because I turn my breakers off. Um, so I run it in there during the day. It's great during the day. And then the air quality where I'm at generally is okay that I don't have to run it all night. So I would prefer a low EMF environment in that situation. And I'm taking care of, the air quality the rest of the day. So let's swap some of this stuff out. Okay, so for the alarm clocks, we can actually get a little battery powered. So in this picture, you see a little battery powered alarm clock on the nightstand there, no electronics, amazing, and no blue light. For lights, what I like in the bedroom is the amber colored light. So I use just a book light. It's a little portable light. I even travel with it. And it's orange so that it's cutting most of the blue light. So if for some reason in the middle of the night I need to get up, I can turn on that orange light. I don't have any electricity on in the bedroom, but my little battery powered light, I can turn it on. It's orange, so I don't get this huge rush of blue light nor electricity. So that's way preferred. And if you can do a kill switch so that you can turn the breaker off, awesome. Now I will say you need to test to confirm that the kill switch did what you wanted it to do. So the intent here is a kill switch will turn off the power to the circuit in your bedroom, because usually our beds are up against a wall and we've got the electric hot wire running right usually where our head is. We've got a big electric field coming off of that, and if we kill the power to that circuit, that's going to dramatically reduce that electric field. But you need to test it, because if you have an opposite circuit on the other side of this wall and you turn the breaker off, you could actually see your level increase because the opposing circuits were canceling each other out to some degree. So you just need to test to make sure that's happening. But when you figure that out, and if you can do a kill switch, highly recommend, because it makes it very easy to power down the bedrooms so that you can sleep better. And for me, boy, I sleep a lot better. Okay. My screen just did something weird. So sorry about that.
We see it
You
just
can see it
fine.
fine. I have a chat box stuck in the middle of anyway, you can see it fine. So great. Okay. So we want to reduce noise. So, if you live in an environment like this, high traffic noise on the outside, outdoors, whatever, wherever you live, if you've got a lot of noise, you have kids, teenagers, pets, whatever it is that is producing noise, clearly, has the potential to interrupt your sleep. So we want to do what we can to eliminate these disruptive sounds. I understand that's easier said than done sometimes. But some of the things that you can do is eliminate the sources if you can. I use earplugs. This is another thing that I cannot live without. If my eye mask or my earplugs are missing, I'm in a full-blown panic. So I bring several pairs with me when I travel. I've got a whole box of them here. So, I replace them routinely. It is an absolute must for me. It was weird for me in the beginning when I started to do this and some people tell me that like it's just too weird, you know, and it's uncomfortable, and I get that, and it's not going to be a choice for everybody. If it's weird to you, I would suggest trying for like a week to see if it gets a little bit more comfortable. It took me about a week before I was like, oh yeah, this is it. Like I'm in my own little world here, nobody's bugging me. I get, again, some people need to hear, for their kids or their infants or their pets or something. But if you have the option, I highly recommend it. Um, and if it is not an option, you can try white noise. So white noise is great if the earplugs are not an option, to help to kind of drown out some of those, noises that might be interruptive for you. So yeah, again, like, we're going to do our best here with all of these. But white noise for some people can be great. I'm just going to add here, if you choose to get like a white noise machine, I have tested many that have huge magnetic fields on them. And I mean, like, you know, the entire, like, they travel really far. Usually with a magnetic field source, it'll drop off pretty quickly, but these go like the whole bedroom. They're crazy. So you got to test it. If you're going to add an electronic to the bedroom for some reason, you need to test it to make sure that you're not inadvertently adding another issue here. Okay, so now we got to talk about comfort and having a nice, comfy bedroom, which is so important. Obviously, this seems very obvious, but it's amazing to me how many of us don't actually do it. So, what is your bedding like? Do you have synthetic bedding material, which can actually create a little bit of an electrostatic environment? If you've got even like some of the bamboos or um, some of the blends, I prefer 100% cotton, but the blends will create a static electricity, which can be disruptive. It drives me crazy. So we need to think about that and think about it's so important. Like, your bedding and your mattress, the comfort is critical. If you're uncomfortable, you're going to wake up and you're going to feel bad and you're not going to sleep well. So if you're going to spend your money somewhere in your house, putting the money towards the comfort of your bedroom, to me, is one of the best things you can do. What's your mattress like? Do you have coils in the mattress, or do you have a metal bed frame? This is really important because the metal in the coils or the bed frame can actually act as an antenna and attract some electromagnetic fields, and it can the pole will deviate. So one way to test this is just to get a little compass and put it on the bed. Well, first find your true north, right? And then put it on the bed. And then I'm talking about like a compass that has the little string. Move it around and see if that compass deviates. If it deviates more than 10 or 20 degrees, then that bed may have become magnetized. So the coils can, over time, with the compression of getting in and out of bed, can actually become magnetized. And that's not awesome. That can create this unnatural electromagnetic climate that can be disruptive. And then, the materials in your mattress. What are you sleeping on? Is it foam, which can have some toxic off-gassing? Is it a natural material like cotton or wool or latex? Some people have latex allergies, but for some people, I have a latex mattress with a wool topper, which is really nice. And how old is the mattress? We're supposed to actually replace our mattresses every 7 years because they can get pretty gross with dust mites and dust in the house, bacteria. We sweat a lot, that gets into the mattress. So I realize that's like, mattresses are expensive and we can't all do that. But if you can, if it's in your budget and you can replace it every 7 years, maybe every 10, awesome. That's a good idea. So that's a big topic of, like, non-toxic mattresses. There's a lot out there. If somebody wants some recommendations, you can reach out to me on that. Smells, this is big and like something that a lot of us aren't thinking about, but has anyone ever woken up to like a family member or a neighbor cooking bacon in the morning or coffee really early? I have. If living with family members and it's 6 a.m. and they need some bacon at 6 a.m. And then I'm awake and I don't usually wake up till maybe 7. And it's like, man, that's a great smell, but dang it, you just woke me up. Right. So we kind of have to think about that kind of stuff. Um, and this comes to hygiene, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But do we have a pet that's, litter boxes nearby? Or, like what's happening that can actually be offensive, and our subconscious can kind of, get in there and, react to that without us really knowing. So that's kind of important. Conversely, maybe we want to have like a really lovely smell, like an essential oil, like a lavender or something like that. That's a whole nother air quality topic, which we can talk about, but, spraying your pillow with lavender at night, great. That can be really helpful and can actually lull you to sleep and help you to sleep longer. So, again, like some of these things are obvious, but we're not really thinking about it. And then temperature, very important. How cold can you go? So in a lot of research that I've looked at, the most people sleep the best at a temperature of like 65 to 67 degrees. I like it actually colder. For me, in the middle of winter, I set the heat at 62, which is pretty cold for some people. I know people that set it at like 55, which is way too cold for me. But the colder you can make it, usually the better you will sleep. So most of us will wake up because it gets hot. So we just want to be, cognizant that we're keeping it at a nice cool temperature, because that usually produces a better sleep quality. Okay, so for bedding, I mentioned all of this. No, all natural fabrics and organic where possible. Organic is super important. Because cotton, if you're doing cotton, is one of the most heavily sprayed crops with pesticides. And we're putting our face right there, right? So if you can get, and organic sheets these days aren't that much more. So I would definitely recommend, if you don't have a big budget to make a lot of changes, getting organic sheets can be great. So you do want to be aware of down. Like I love my down comforters, love them, but working in the mold world, I know a lot of down can actually be moldy. And I'm not sure if this is because of the process, or I suspect somewhere between the manufacturing process of obtaining the down, transporting it, cleaning it, hopefully they don't always clean it, but if they're supposed to, and then if it's wet and it's packaged, somewhere in that process, it's getting moldy. And obviously we don't want to bring mold in there. So not all of it is, but we don't always know. So just be aware of that. I talked about the mattress. So again, this is where you want to spend your money, in your bedroom, if you can. Creating a really comfortable, lovely environment is, I mean, I can't express enough how impactful that is on relaxing your brain, helping you to calm down and feel comfortable for better sleep. All right, so the smells I talked about, very strong association in the brain, right? So if you smell something gross, or actually, let me do the converse. Anybody, you've smelt, I don't know, a perfume that your mom used to wear, and you smelled that 30 years later, and it immediately brings you back to that moment when you were a kid. Or somebody's baking an apple pie and it takes you back. Like there's a huge association with memories and your olfactory senses. So again, like, smells are very, very powerful. I prefer no smells. Do we have a stinky spouse or stinky pets? Like our overall hygiene, like some of us do. That can be very disruptive. Clean actually has no smell. So a clean house, you will not smell it. People argue with me about this and they say that's impossible. Every house has a smell. I go into people's houses every single day, and I can tell you that some have a very strong smell, Some don't. It is entirely possible for your house to have no smell. And I experience this all the time. So a truly clean house will have no smell at all, which is perfect. That's kind of what we want. And it's best to take care of those, stinky things, versus trying to mask them with another scent. So that's the goal, keeping the house scent free if possible. Again, if you want to throw a little lavender on your pillow, that's cool. But a clean house has no smell. All right. Okay, so we need to talk about air quality, which for me, even when I became certified as a building biologist, I was mostly focused on EMF, and I didn't truly appreciate how air quality impacted sleep until I got deeper and deeper into the research and started cleaning up my own environment before I realized, oh, wow, this is actually pretty darn big. So dust is a huge factor. Um, Dust is full of chemicals from our environment, dust mites, which can be very allergenic for some people. If there's a mold problem in the house, it can be full of mold. Dust is a reservoir for all the things: pet dander, litter, bacteria, all the things in our house is the dust. That's like our toxic bomb. So we need to keep dust down to keep our allergenic load down. Even if you don't think you have allergies, you can still be having a little bit of a histamine response. And this is kind of the key to why it's related to sleep. Histamine can actually cause you to be alert, right? So if anybody has histamine issues, it's important because it actually can stimulate us and release cortisol so that we're alert and active, but we don't want that at night. So if you're having a histamine response at night, you're going to wake up and you're not going to sleep very well. And this goes for mold as well. Mold can be, a lot of people develop histamine problems from a mold exposure. So we need to be cautious about that. Particulate matter, which is all of the particles that are floating in the air. So you've all seen, a ray of sun coming in through the window, and you see all the particles floating in the air. We have tons of particles floating in our air all the time. And that particulate matter, what is that? Dust, mold, skin cells, pet dander, dirt from outside, all the things which, again, we're breathing. If it's in the air, we're breathing it, right? And particulate matter has a very strong correlation to chronic health conditions like cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cardiovascular disease. It's very serious, and most of us aren't paying attention to it. So I do recommend a really good air purifier to keep that particulate matter down, the dust down, the mold. Again, if somebody needs a recommendation, reach out to me. I'm happy to provide that. VOCs is another one, which are volatile organic compounds. So these are the chemicals off-gassing from our furniture, our cleaning products, our bedding, our carpets, all the chemicals that are off-gassing. So again, an air purifier can help with that. And I know everyone on this call is super health conscious. So, you're probably not cleaning with the toxic crap in the regular grocery store. You're probably cleaning with really good products that are low VOC, low chemicals. So awesome. Keep that up. I just actually happened to get some more Branch Basics in the mail today. It just happens to be right here. That's my favorite. So, a lot of great alternative cleaning products. Vinegar is awesome. Baking soda is amazing. Borax, we don't have to spend a lot of fancy money to clean. So keeping the house low VOC, and just being really cognizant of the air because of all of these things that's associated, the respiratory conditions, the histamine, congestion. Chemicals are endocrine disruptors and they mess with our hormones. And ladies, I'm at that age where the hormones are starting to drop real fast. And that's a drag. And that, this time of life, it does interfere with sleep pretty dramatically. So if we can keep the endocrine disruption to a minimum by addressing what's in our air, amazing. That's going to be so helpful. Neurological conditions, which I mentioned. So home hygiene, air purification, super important, like I mentioned. If you need to go a little bit further and have a mold inspection because you're suspicious about that, I do a lot of mold work, as most of you know. I would strongly recommend it. I have had many clients that countless clients that once we found the mold and remediated the house, wow, everything's, health improved dramatically across the board, including sleep. Super duper important. Getting those chemicals out. And then having a HEPA vacuum. So we want to keep that dust load down as much as possible. And part of how we achieve that is with a HEPA vacuum. Now you want to be careful that HEPA vacuum isn't kicking back. That's the tricky part of this. A lot of us like to vacuum, and then it's actually, some vacuums, they're not well sealed. So as we're vacuuming, we get more particulate because it's kicking back out of the vacuum. So you want, if possible, a nice a sealed vacuum, like those old school canister kinds that have a bag inside. Those can be better because they have a better seal, and the bag inside will help keep that particulate count down, which is great. And then please change your furnace filter. As a general rule, we want to change the furnace filter every 3 months. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people have never been told that. I didn't know that until I started doing this work. You want a good filter, a MERV rating of 11 to 13. MERV stands for minimum efficiency rating value. That's a rating value for filters. Please make sure you're doing that so that you can adequately trap particulate and keep your furnace running efficiently. And then I do recommend duct cleaning every 2 to 3 years. So what's in your ducts? Anybody know what's in your duct work? Yeah, mold, particulate. I find toys in there. I find food in there. I find a lot of dog food in there. Sometimes you will see some pretty gross stuff, like people spill stuff in there, pets pee in there. Like, yeah, we got to get those ducts clean because that's the air we're breathing, everything that's moving through those ducts. Very, very important. All right, so what are you supposed to do in your bedroom? Not much. So beds are for sleep, sex, and light reading. Now, this is important because your brain is going to associate that space with things. All right. So, more importantly, we don't want to work in the bedroom. We never want to, sit on our bed with our laptop and answer emails and, grade papers or whatever, because we're working and we're associating that environment with work. We don't want to have a computer or a little desk in the bedroom even, because we're going to bed and we see that out of the corner of our eye and we start thinking about work, right? It can be very subtle, but it's a cue, and you're like, oh yeah, that email I didn't send, or that thing I'm working on, and your brain starts moving even if you don't really realize it. So no books, no heavy textbooks or workbooks in the bedroom that's going to trigger you to think about work. Okay, consider your pets. This is a real tough one. Ideally, we don't let pets in the bedroom for all of the reasons we've said. The pet dander, they can be very allergenic. They can move. If they're on your bed, they move in the middle of the night. They wake you up. It's both disruptive and very unhygienic. But I will admit, as a bad building biologist, that occasionally my cats hop up on my bed and sleep in my bed. So I'm not judging anybody if you do that. It's not ideal, but I get that they provide a lot of comfort And for some people, you know, it's important. So I'm just throwing it out there to consider that if you're really struggling with sleep and you do have pets in the bed, you know, it might be best for them to sleep in another room, but, you know, up to you, obviously. Children, so again, like, you know, are your children waking you up? Again, like, I'm not saying don't co-sleep or anything like that. That's entirely your decision, but you do need to consider, you know, are the children interrupting my sleep? Is there anything you can do about it? Just a consideration there. Or how are the kids sleeping? You know, do they have similar problems in their bedroom and they're waking you up because they're not sleeping because of all of the things that we have considered here as well. So arguing, if you're in an argument with someone, spouse, kids, whatever, we try to keep that out of the bedroom. All right. If an argument's going on, we try to consider having that away from the bedroom, again, that association. And if it's not going to be resolved tonight, can we agree to be amicable right now and pick this up tomorrow? Right? Obviously, most of us have probably experienced a situation where we've gotten upset and angry at the end of the day and then we don't sleep. Not ideal. And I know that we can't avoid that all the time, but we can maybe try to say, hey, we both want to sleep tonight. You know, let's sleep on it and consider revisiting this conversation tomorrow and not argue in the bedroom so that we can, you know, limit that association. No TV in the bedroom, ideally, like I mentioned earlier. And we got to think about clutter. For a lot of us, that clutter really keeps the brain firing, even if we don't notice it. So even a little bit of clutter in the bedroom would be, you'd be amazed how much it can interfere and keep that brain in that fight or flight function, even if you're not noticing it. If anyone's ever cleaned out, you know, a closet or a car, you notice that sense of freedom after you do it. In fact, just 2 days ago, I cleaned out my car, all of my equipment, took all the equipment out, vacuumed it really, really, really well, got a car wash, reorganized everything. It's super neat and tidy. Oh my gosh, it feels amazing. It's so amazing. So highly recommend, especially in the bedroom, the whole house really, but tidying up can really do wonders. Okay, so better sleep is possible. So just to recap, the areas that we're really going to focus on for creating this sleep sanctuary: the light, critically important. Our EMF in the bedroom. Sound, keeping sound to a minimum. Considering comfort, can we do anything to make our room a little bit more comfortable? Got to think about air quality, the appropriate use, so keeping distracting things out of the bedroom wherever possible. And those are the main things. So yeah, I think has some info to share. So I'm
Yes,
gonna
yes, I
stop.
do.
I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm having a problem with my
Can I force you to stop? I don't know.
my mouse won't go to where I need it to go is the problem. Let me try. Yeah, maybe you can force me to stop.
I
Oh, beautiful.
did
You
it.
did
Yeah. Okay, good. See, I learned something new from your
it.
webinar. So thank you so much, Kathy. You covered so many important areas. I forgot to share my screen now. That was 100% my fault. There we go. So many important areas. Everyone in attendance now has a really good understanding of the scope of everything that impacts our sleep and can impact our sleep, and why your specialization and expertise is so valuable. And we'll get to Q&A in a minute. I see we have a bunch of questions in the Q&A pod. I also noticed a lot of questions flying through the chat pod. So if you put a question in the chat pod, if you could please copy that and paste it into the Q&A pod. That's what we'll be going through in a minute when we get to that. But as Kathy said, before we get there, we have a couple of special offers for you tonight. So to start, Kathy just gave you a rundown of the most important considerations when creating a sleep sanctuary to help improve your sleep. And we all know this is really important. The more peaceful and serene your bedroom is, the better you'll sleep at night and the better you'll feel all day long. And a lot of this can be accomplished with behavioral changes, like not letting your pets in bed, or not all the time in Kathy's case, or leaving your phone out of the bedroom. But there are also, as Kathy pointed out, there are products that can help. And Shield Your Body has an entire collection of products and accessories that help you do that. And this is our SYB Better Sleep collection. And just to give you some idea of what's in it, it's a really great collection. We have, as Kathy was talking about, analog, blue light free, battery powered alarm clocks, and really, really nice sleep masks from Bagby. Both of these are in my bedroom, and these are in our Better Sleep collection. We have blue light glasses and a blue light free lamp that is also, it's battery powered and rechargeable. These are from OcuShield. That lamp, by the way, I upgraded to that earlier this year, and it is one of my new favorite things in the world. It is such a cool lamp. And then we have blankets and canopies from Shield Your Body. These are EMF protection blankets and canopies. We have grounding pillowcases and sheets from GroundLux and True 47. We have, Kathy talked about kill switches. We have kill switches and dirty electricity filters from EMF Safe. So as you can tell, we have a lot in this collection. And to thank you all for attending this webinar, giving a special discount. So you can save 20% on laboratory tested EMF protection from SYB, and 10% off everything else in the collection. That includes the Bagby clocks, the OcuShield blue light protection, the grounding sheets, the kill switches, and everything in the collection. There are so many options here to help you create a more serene and safer bedroom for yourself and for your loved ones. Everything in this category is discounted for you. Just follow this link and the discount will be automatically applied in your cart. And this link, I'll have it on the final screen so you can copy it there. It'll also be sent to you tomorrow in email. So don't stress copying it down right this second if you haven't already. So that is the first offer, 10 to 20% off everything in our Better Sleep collection. Now the second offer, but wait, as they say, there is more. Creating a sleep sanctuary is important. But I've known Kathy now a while, and I've learned in a lot of detail that really optimizing your sleep extends outside of the bedroom into your daily life. There's factors from nutrition and blood sugar, blue light, EMF hygiene throughout the day, not just in the bedroom, stress, and physical and emotional trauma. To really get the best night of sleep possible, you need to focus on optimizing and improving all of these areas, which is exactly why Kathy created the Sleep Easy Method, which is an 8-week online course that you can follow at your own pace wherever you are. Kathy created the Sleep Easy Method, covering everything she learned on her own personal journey of over 15 years to create consistent, good quality sleep night after night. She has seen firsthand through her consulting work how this method can totally transform people's lives. Sleep is everything. We all know when you don't sleep well, you just don't have a good quality of life. With over 5.5 hours of videos, more than 20 PDF guides and handouts, 8 bonus expert interviews, over a dozen blood sugar balancing and gut healing recipes, Kathy's Sleep Easy Method has everything you need to know on how to reset your body back into a state of health so that you can finally get the sleep that you deserve. Across the 8 modules, Kathy covers everything from EMF to circadian rhythm, to learning about your optimal diet, to managing stress, to good sleep hygiene, balancing your hormones, and more. Kathy has put her life's work into this program, and we're really excited to be able to help bring this information to you. Maybe you want to perform better at work. Maybe you just want to get back into shape. Maybe you want healthier relationships, and maybe you just want to feel normal again. That's what this program is for. So the value of this course is well over $3,000, and we've seen similar courses priced at $5,000 and higher, and they don't have all of the information that's included in the Sleep Easy method. But Kathy and I knew that if we priced it at what it's worth, not enough people would have access to the information. And we know that $3,000 is a lot of money. So we talked about making it available for just $500, which is more than fair for all the value in the course and the results that you'll see. But again, Kathy and I wanted to make this available to as many people as possible. So we ended up pricing it at just $299. And again, this is really incredible value because it includes 8 modules, over 5.5 hours of video, over 20 PDF handouts, Kathy's bonus recipe book, and this is all from a certified building biologist and certified EMF expert that you can consume from the comfort of your own home on your own schedule for 1 full year, right? So we thought $299 is really good value for all of this. But I just realized something that the momentum there was just a little bit broken. But so we've decided for tonight just to make it available to you for $167, right? So normally if you go onto my website, you'll see it's priced at $299. But for those of you in attendance here tonight, we're offering a special discount, over 60% off for $167. And to take advantage of this deal, you need to follow this link, right? Because this is not a generally available discount. This is specifically for everyone here in the room tonight. And it's at bagby.co/sleep. So now we're ready for QA. These are the links that I just was talking about for the 2 special offers for tonight, that we have 10 to 20% off the SYB Better Sleep collection. If you follow shieldyourbody.com/bettersleep. And this number is wrong. It's over 60% off Kathy's Sleep Easy method at bagby.co/sleep. So with that, we're now going to break into Q&A. So let me load up that pod. And we have, okay. Mela asked, is it okay to have plants in the bedroom?
Maybe. So a classic building biology answer, right?
On the one hand.
Yes. So I mean, here's the thing with plants. You know, some plants they have soil has mold in it, right? So for some people, this can be problematic. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. You know, so I prefer honestly to have plants outdoors where they belong instead of inside the home. I know that people like to talk about research that was done on how well plants clean the air and whatnot, but some of that research was actually not very sound, and there was like one study, and it wasn't that great, and everybody quotes it over and over. But further subsequent research shows that it's not really doing as much as we had hoped. I do value like bringing greenery inside and having a little bit of nature inside. So it really basically it comes down to the person. From an air quality perspective, I think it's better to have them outdoors personally. So, you know, but if you can't live without your plants and it brings you tons of comfort and you love it, then, you know, consider that. So it really comes down to the situation and, you know, kind of how important they are to you.
Thank you. Alexandra asks, is there a way to mitigate the effects of nearby power lines outside the window for renters? I can't change the apartment, but is there something that I can do?
For a renter, no, there's really not. Power lines are one of the things that you really cannot solve. You know, some power lines have a high field because of a neutral issue. The neutral is loose or the load is unbalanced or something, and that would be a power company issue. Getting the power company to do anything about that is a tall order. They're not usually likely to work with you. Um, if this was your house and you owned a house, there's one person that I know of in this country that has an active mitigation system. It's very expensive. It can be done under very specific circumstances, but you're a renter, so that's not a possibility. Um, so, the magnetic field that comes off of power lines, unfortunately, there's very little recourse. If it is problematic, I would suggest when you have the opportunity to relocate, I would probably look into that if the level is high, which we don't know if it is, but testing might be able to tell you if it's a problem.
Yeah, so testing is definitely a good suggestion there, with a good EMF meter, testing both the electric and the magnetic fields. And then following on the rest of what you said, if the levels are high and you can't do anything about it, focus on the things you do have control over to reduce your exposure. So maybe you can't do anything about the power lines, but you can stop bringing your phone to bed, just as one example.
Yep.
Julie asked, does it help to change your position on the bed so your feet are near the wall instead of your head? Oh, that rhymed.
Haha. Well, yeah, I mean, sure. Better to have the field on your feet than your head, but it's still on your body, right? Body's one thing. I mean, I would rather have the field not on my brain. So it might do a little. Ideally, if you can move the bed away from the wall, that might be helpful. So it might be minimally helpful, but hopefully we can get that bed away from the wall if there's a big field there.
Thank you. Drew asks about a small transistor radio on his bedside table. He's asking what the EMFs are off of a small. I'm assuming it's a battery powered. If it's a small transistor radio, it's battery powered.
Okay. So, well, one, you've got the radio frequency just because it's a radio, right? And you're getting either AM, FM radio stations, which in the EMF world will be debated about whether or not those have negative health effects, just the radio. Because most of us don't realize radio is radio frequency. It's transmitting air, or it's transmitting information through the air, just like our cell phones are. It's using the same type of technology. Now, of course, cell phones have a lot more advanced technology like pulsing and modulation that a small radio does not. But some people do think that there's more resonance. The field size, the waves, the size of the waves of an AM or FM radio are much more. They're about the size of our bodies. So some people think that can actually be more harmful than some of these other things. I haven't really seen that to be true among very sensitive people. I do know sensitive people that AM, FM radio, they can't tolerate it. Most people, in my experience, who do have sensitivities don't have a problem with AM, FM radio. So, to be debated there. But as far as electric fields and magnetic fields or dirty electricity, it's going to be minimal. You can, if I tested it right next to it, I'll get some elevations, but a foot or 2 feet away from you, probably not that big of a deal.
Thank you. Mela says her RF reader says 0.013. Is that okay? Mela, we need to know the units, but my guess is that would probably be a very low reading.
Yeah, I mean, if it's milliwatts or microwatts, we're assuming it's measured in watts. Most meters on the market are milliwatt or microwatt, which is a big difference. Also, I would question the sensitivity of the meter. So, sounds low, but we need a little bit more data.
Thank you. And Mela and everyone else in the room, that a couple of times in answer to questions in the chat pod, I posted a link to my free ebook on EMF meters and how to use them. That book also includes exposure guidelines from the Building Biology Institute, so you can compare your meter readings with those. Anonymous asks, could a thick bedbug mattress protector block the ability for EMF to reach the springs of a mattress? And I mean, the answer there is going to be no, because those are just made from cotton or whatever they're made out of. They're not made out of shielding material.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Another anonymous asks, please give us healthy mattress names. I don't think he means like Bob and Jim. I think he means brands.
Yeah. So Naturepedic is a good one. I like the organics. I'll put a link to that one in the chat. The one, okay, mattresses are a little tricky because no matter what, it's a big manufacturing process, right? And like this one that I'm giving you a link to, it has foam and stuff in it, which I don't love it. But it's, it's got some certain certifications of low VOCs and chemicals. And the reason why I am comfortable recommending this one is because I have a couple of extremely chemically sensitive people that do not react to it. And honestly, to me, that is a much better meter than any of my meters that I have, because chemically sensitive people tend to pick up on stuff that even my meters do not. So, take that with a grain of salt, because it's difficult to know with all the greenwashing out there what is legit and what is not. So the organics I love because it's probably the most comfortable mattress I've ever laid on in my life. It's really nice. Naturepedic is another one that people like. And then I also like White Lotus. White Lotus has cotton and wool futons. So if you really want to be, pure about the materials, and you can get and latex. Actually, my latex mattress is from White Lotus. And my wool topper is also, and I have a cotton futon from them. So I'll put a link in the chat. I've got discount codes for both of these companies. And then other ones that people like, there's a lot out there. Avocado is a popular one, Essentia. I don't know. I have clients that have had issues with those, like dipping in the center and stuff like that. But yeah, for me, I would go with White Lotus, Organics, or Nature. What did I say? Naturepedic.
Thank you. Amy asks, are there any suggestions for getting into bed? I take melatonin and nutmeg and some sleeping medication. I turn off my Wi-Fi at night. I get very tired at night, but am a night owl and just can't make myself get into bed. I'm trying to go to bed earlier. It is hard to change my circadian rhythm. Sounds like Amy would be a great student for your Sleep Easy method.
Yeah, because that's a tough one. And I don't talk much in the course about your chronotype, but you may be a night owl, naturally, and that's okay if you can sleep later, right? If you don't have to get up early in the morning. Some of us naturally have a chronotype where we like the evenings better than the mornings. And again, that is okay if it fits your lifestyle. If it doesn't, there are things you can do to adjust your circadian rhythm. Yeah, and I talk a ton about that in the course. It's really like an all day thing, right? Like getting out of bed and seeing the sunlight first thing in the morning, timing your meals, all of this stuff to get onto the Earth's circadian rhythm, so that you're more in tuned and you're going to get sleepy more naturally when you've given your body the rest of these cues during the day about what time it is. So I mean, I don't want people to force themselves. If if your chronotype is not is not on sync with the Earth circadian rhythm. But if you've got to get up for work and that kind of stuff, following that circadian rhythm is what I would recommend.
Okay, thank you. Amy also asks, I use red light glasses to block blue and green light at night. Is it okay to have my LED lights on as long as I have the glasses on?
Well, yes, but LED lights can have a lot of dirty electricity. So they would need to be tested. I don't love LED lights. They also, honestly, like this may be part of your problem. Potentially, dirty electricity and flicker. LEDs have a lot of flicker. Even if you've got, your lights on, your glasses on, the flicker can still bother you, and really disrupt your nervous system. So I would try to not have those lights on in the evening if you can. Like R mentioned, the portable light that Bagby has.
No, this is AccuShield,
Sorry, AccuShield.
and I love it.
Yeah, I've got one, not entirely. I bought a different one before you had that one. That one does look. You know what? That's probably an awesome travel light. I'm gonna have to get one of those because it'll fit like in your bag.
And it's
That's
rechargeable. It's
so
really, yeah,
that's
nice.
really cool.
And you can adjust the color temperature and the brightness.
Yeah, that's cool. So I would prefer something like that. I've got one that I can switch from daylight to orange to red, and I use that at night, and it's awesome. So I would give that a shot.
Okay, thank you. Let's jump around here.
So I just put links in the chat to the mattresses that I recommend if somebody wanted to look at that.
Joan asks, how would you test for static electricity?
Well, I don't really have a great way to do that. Just other than, that thing. What do you do? Oh, you got.
Sorry, yeah.
No, that's okay. Other than, those obvious signs, like when you take stuff out of the dryer and it like goes bananas and everything sticks to it and sparks are flying. Oh, I can't stand that. So I see, for like family members of mine who wear synthetic clothing, oh, I can't handle their clothes when they come out of the dryer because of that static electricity goes crazy. If you use natural materials, you will not have nearly as much of that unless it's very dry. So I don't have a good way to test for that, but if you've got synthetic materials, you're naturally going to have a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I notice it when there's a lot of static electricity, my hair stands up.
Funny guy.
Which is weird, right? Because I don't have any. So that's a good sign that something's really off. Okay. Larry asks, what about grounding sheets and pillowcases?
Okay, controversial. As a general rule, I don't recommend them because if you're plugging them into an outlet and you've got dirty electricity on your outlet, or on your house wiring system, which you almost always do, then you're coming into contact with that noise and those harmonics. And I don't love that. Shield Your Body does have an awesome product that one of my colleagues created, which is called the nuisance current blocker, which if you really do like to ground your stuff, you can plug it into that nuisance current blocker so that it will block a lot of those frequencies. It's pretty cool. So if you're going to do it, I would suggest that. Otherwise, I'm not really comfortable recommending that. Having said that, I do have clients that say, I sleep on a sheet and I feel awesome. Great, wonderful. But because I know of the potential for it to create more problems, I'm not going to recommend it unless you're going to use it with the NCB really.
Yeah, and thank you for that mention of the NCB. I have it up here on the screen. This is also available on the Shield Your Body website. And you plug this little doodad into the wall, and then you plug your grounding cable right into it. And so that would be the safer way to use grounding sheets.
Bobby had his hand raised. I didn't know if he
Yeah, I don't
wanted.
know what we can do about that.
Oh, because we can't unmute him. Okay, Bobby, if you want to put something in the chat, if you had an answer to one of these questions or something,
So I
because we
see there
can't
is a
unmute
question
you.
from Bobby. I don't know if it's what he raised his hand for.
Okay.
Kindly share a make or brand of HEPA vacuum you really recommend.
Oh, yeah, I put a link to one. I saw that and I linked to it in the chat.
Which one was
Melee
that?
the, about the
Can,
vacuum.
yeah.
I'll do it
What
again.
can you? Yeah, paste that in again.
Yep.
Okay. I'm in the UK. I see a lot of your products are only posted to the US. What do you post to the UK? I have the clock and router cover. Or if you can see a product, it ships to you. So if you're browsing our store from the UK, any product you actually see is one that is available to you. If we don't ship it to the UK, you won't see it. So everything in that better sleep category ships to the UK, and you can see what the costs are in the footer of every page. We have a link here to shipping information, so you can go there and there we go, and you can see that to the UK, shipping for orders from 0 to 100 pounds is £3, and orders over 100 pounds is free. So we make it very easy to order from the UK. And thank you for that question, Mela.
Vacuum link not showing. Why not?
Um, Oh,
Okay, someone just said
Anjali.
yeah,
Oh,
okay, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, what?
Someone said the vacuum link isn't showing. I don't know why, so I'll go grab it again and redo it.
Okay. Anjali says, this isn't a question, but I think you'll like hearing it, Kathy. A building biologist found my grounding mat, the cord going into the grounding outlet, was actually emitting high EMFs, so I had to get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's something I'm sure you've seen before. I know Andrew, the inventor of the
Mm-hmm.
NCB, has seen that before. And I will say that is a situation where the NCB can help. I'm not advocating that you go back to using the grounding mat, but if you did, the NCB would help by filtering electric and magnetic fields as well as dirty electricity off of the grounding wire. That's exactly what its purpose is. Joan asks, are some batteries a no-no and others okay? E.g. lithium rechargeable, does the total voltage matter?
Sorry, I got distracted from trying to put these links back in the chat. Lithium batteries versus rechargeable, or is that the
Well,
question?
she's just asking in general, are there differences between batteries and does total voltage matter? I'm assuming the question is from an EMF perspective.
Well, it depends. I mean, yeah, it can. It can, I mean, like when you're charging something, for example, like I have, flashlights, headlamps that I'm recharging every day because I'm in a crawl space or an attic doing an inspection. When you're charging them, when I'm charging those rechargeable batteries, I can pick up dirty electricity from that, right? So that's one thing. When I have the headlamp next to me, I don't really pick up much on that, but each device is different. So it's not necessarily the battery so much as when it's being charged and what the device is and what the device is doing. And ultimately, like, you got to test it to
Yeah,
really
when
know.
it's being charged, it's going to have significantly higher
Right.
emissions. So you don't want to have it charging like the Oculamp that I've been showing, like this. you don't want that plugged in and charging while you're using it. But in general, batteries are, I don't want to use the term safe too loosely, but in general, batteries are safer when it comes to EMF than anything that runs off of alternating current, because batteries are direct current or DC. Okay. Julie in the chat pod asked, is the NCB $300? Does it work for only one item? And that it works for one grounding product at a time. So you can swap which grounding product you're plugging into it, but it will only help with one at a time. I will say this is actually also included in the 20% off sale. So you can save $60 on this if you buy it as part of the offer I announced. Again, all of the discounts that I talked about, those will be applied in your cart. So if you add it to your cart, that's where you'll see the discount appear. Raymond says, how does one stop dirty electricity emanating from the walls? The answer is you don't. So, but Kathy, why don't you give the less clever answer?
Well, you need to identify what the source is that's producing the dirty electricity, right? So if it's from the grid, meaning, let's say you walk into a house and there's nothing plugged in because somebody just moved out. It's a house, empty house, there's nothing plugged in. Maybe you don't have much. Maybe you don't have enough that warrants any action. Maybe you do because it's coming in from the grid. It's coming in from the neighbor's pool pump or the neighbor's solar, or just the grid is dirty. You can filter at your panel, which is like a way bigger topic than we have time for today, but there are filtering devices that you can install at the panel to help reduce the dirty electricity from the grid to the rest of the house. You can also, let's say there's a bunch of stuff in your house and you do have a bunch of dirty electricity in the walls, finding the source, what's plugged in your house that is contributing to the whole house having dirty electricity. I mean, I've seen like teeny tiny little lights, like decorative lights that make the whole house super noisy. Fluorescent light bulbs or
Dimmer switches.
dimmer switches are huge. When your computer is plugged in, that DC to AC or AC to DC conversion in this case. I mean, there's so many things that might be your variable speed furnace. Like there's something in the house possibly that's contributing, and if you unplug that, you will see the levels go down. So much more complicated of an issue that requires some investigation, an assessment, some meters to figure out what is the problem, and then helping you to identify.
I would say that's the sort of situation where you can get a meter yourself to see how much dirty electricity there is. That's something you can do because those meters are super easy to use. We have the ones from Satic in the Shield Your Body store. But once you've identified that there is a concerning level of dirty electricity in your home, odds are that's a good time to contact a consultant like Kathy, or one perhaps closer to where you live, depending on where you live, who can help you diagnose where that pollution is coming from and what you can do to remedy it. Okay. Laura asks, what do you do for the smart meter? And the answer there, I'll just start the answer, is if possible, opt out. Now, that's not always possible, depending on where you live. I know that in certain jurisdictions, like in Australia, it's illegal to opt out. They will cut off, well, I don't know if it's illegal, but they'll cut your power. But in certain places in the United States, you can just opt out. Sometimes you have to pay a monthly fee to not have a smart meter. But if it's at all possible, opt out. And then beyond that, Kathy, do you want to explain how you address it?
So it really, It really requires some testing to identify what you're getting because there's different types of smart meters too. So, like here in Idaho, we have technically smart meters because they are two-way communication, but Idaho Power doesn't use radio frequency meters. They don't go through the air. They send the data back through the power line back to the substation or the power station or whatever to their offices. So those require different mitigation strategies because it's dirty electricity versus radio frequency. Um, and then, we need to know we need to know exactly what it's doing to be able to give you some information on how to shield it. And I see that Julie says if you put a cover on the smart meter, does that redirect the EMF back into the house? And it can potentially. So therefore, like we need equipment to measure it, to test it. What's it doing? How much is it giving off? Is it shooting back? Is it going forward? Like where is it directed? Is your neighbors pointed at you? Like what's the deal? How much are we getting? So that we can develop a proper strategy based on that. So unfortunately, another classic building biology answer, like it depends, and we have to test it in order to give you the proper mitigation strategy.
Yeah, also keep in mind if you have a smart meter, that probably means your neighbor has a smart meter. Probably the neighbor on both sides of your home has a smart meter. And so there's going to be radiation resulting from not just your smart meter, but from all the ones that are in the vicinity. Okay. Um, Kathy, do you know what Denny foil is?
Yeah.
Okay, Julie asks, a friend has used Denny foil on the walls in her bedroom to cut EMF. Do you recommend Denny foil?
Maybe. This is becoming a thing. So, okay. So, Dinifoil is blacks radio frequency, a thick building material. So, if you put it on, okay, the thing about it, it's a solid surface. So, I am potentially concerned about blocking moisture, depending on how it's adhered. Okay, so I don't love, blocking EMF in exchange for potentially trapping moisture. But and I don't like, is it in the wall cavity or is it on the sheetrock or what? It can work, but again, like, test, did you get the results you were looking for? Your neighbor has Wi-Fi, so you put up this foil. Great, that can be awesome. Um, as long as you test to make sure like there's not another source behind you, which can then hit that wall and deflect back at you, right? So if you put it up and it works and the field is reduced, great. Be aware of moisture problems that has the potential. So if I'm doing that, I typically guide people in using a perforated type of material or screen so that we're not trapping moisture in that situation. But it can be a good solution for blocking radio frequency.
Yeah, I will add to that, and this is something uh, well, anytime you're talking about doing, that's the kind of solution that I call sort of large scale, right? You're not you're not just buying a cell phone pouch, and you're not buying a lamp. You're trying to shield a significant area. Anytime you do that, I strongly advise people to work with experts, certified experts like Kathy, because those are the types of things where it's actually quite easy to get it wrong. And if you get it wrong, you can actually lead to increased levels of exposure in the environment you're trying to protect. So that's an area where I would strongly advise working with a certified expert like Kathy. Anjali has a few questions. Let's see if we can get to a couple.
I see
Does
that.
off does off gassing ever stop?
Yeah, I just actually answered that question in the chat because she had put it in the chat.
Oh,
So
okay.
basically, some stuff does, and some stuff like foam actually increases as it starts to break down over the years. So it
Huh.
depends on the product. Yeah. So foam, like, the bad toxic stuff, we don't like that. Um, Central vacuum systems, yes, they're good. I like them. They're a good air quality alternative for sure. I haven't gotten EMF issues off of those before. Um, how do you make sure duct cleaning company is competent? I mean, reviews, basically you got to ask around, get reviews. You can look up NADCA, Certified National Association of Duct Cleaning, something like that. NAD, NADCA, NADCA, for a good company. But then you gotta ask around for referrals for sure, because they're not all created equal. Um, and then is your dog's not allowed on the bed, but on the floor in your closet? Yeah, I mean, not ideal, but acceptable for you, sure. Like again, you got to do what you got to do. So if that's how the dog sleeps, like we want the dog to have good mental health and a good life, right? So if that works for you, cool.
Okay, great, thank you. Julie asks in the chat, where is Kathy located? Kathy is located in Idaho, but services the entire Pacific Northwest down into California, and is also available to travel. Did I say that right, Kathy?
Yep, that is correct.
Yeah. Um, Joan asks, can you please comment on the effects of EMF on cats and dogs? EMF affects all living things. It's not just humans, and it's not just cats and dogs. It's also plants and trees, marine life. So anything it does to a human is something you can expect it would be doing to a cat or a dog. It would probably be impacting them more because their bodies are smaller. And so the same amount of radiation that would impact us will impact more of their body than it would us. Anything you'd like to add there, Kathy?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's always really horrific to me when I hear about pets getting cancer, and it seems like that's more and more common, and you got to wonder why. I mean, food is a huge issue because the animal food industry is horrific what they're being fed, but no question to me that this EMF environment is a contributor as well.
Um, Nancy asks, how much can an EMF blocking blanket help? That would depend entirely on your specific circumstances. I will just make sure to emphasize an EMF blocking blanket, like any EMF shielding product, will only protect the part of your body that it covers. So if you're sleeping under an EMF blanket and your head is exposed, it won't be protecting your head. And that's where a product like an EMF canopy, like the SYB canopy, comes in, because that provides a full 360-degree protection. Now, the second part of your question, what to do about BiPAP and its blue light? I don't know what BiPAP is, but I'm assuming it's a machine sort of like a CPAP. I don't know if Kathy, do you know what a BiPAP is?
Yeah. It's like a sleep, like a CPAP, and you can get like red cling, like film. How do I say that? Like
Yeah, foam, red
yeah,
foam.
red clingy film that you can put over that if if anything like that you have a light blinking, you can buy that and put it on it so it'll cut the blue light.
Yeah, I have a surge protector on the split AC in my bedroom, and that's required. Otherwise, I'll blow out my air conditioner twice a month. And it has green and red lights on it, and I just cover it with duct tape. I don't need to see. I know if my if it has power or
Yeah,
not by whether it
right.
turns on. So I just cover the lights with duct tape. And I don't remember what I used to have in my room a long time ago. All of these electronics these days have these blue lights, and they're just darkness piercing blue lights. And putting
Yep.
some duct tape or electrical tape over just the light is a really solid option. Um, let's see. Uh, Wow, there's a really wide range of questions here, and we're running a little long. Did you answer this, Kathy? Can you recommend a good air purifier for a larger room?
I sure can put
Yeah,
that in the link too.
excellent.
So I'm kind of in love with the Jasper these days. So I have an IQ Air, which is great, and I have a Jasper, which I recently got, which I love because it is really quiet. So while the IQ Air is awesome, it's pretty loud, and that bothers me. Um, so the Jasper has a sensor on it, so it tells me what's happening, which is really cool because like I can watch it when I cook something, I see the air sensor go way up, and then it automatically will adjust its level to the purification needed. And it's got like a sleep mode, so you can turn all the lights off while it's still functioning, and it's steel versus plastic, so it's great for off gassing. It's just really, it's got a very high clean air delivery rate, which is how they measure how much particulate it removes and pollutants. It's just awesome.
Thank you. Anonymous asks, I have a power strip under the head of my bed. Is that really bad? I have an iHome docking station, alarm clock, and a lamp plugged into it. Better suggestions. So I'll just start by saying that sounds like it could be bad. Um, you definitely, if you're concerned about it, which we'd recommend that you test, right? So you get a decent meter and you test to see what the emissions are. That certainly has potential to be emitting some significant levels of EMF, especially since you have multiple things plugged into it. So you asked for better suggestions. Should you replace it with an old-fashioned battery alarm clock? That's what I would recommend. That's what I sleep with. I sleep with the Bagby alarm clock. In terms of the light, I really, as I mentioned, and let me, where did my screen go here? So I mentioned this OcuShield low blue light lamp. I really like this. That's a really good alternative. You plug it in to charge it, but you don't have to keep it plugged in when you're using it or while you're sleeping. And on these Bagby alarm clocks are really great, simple, elegant, low tech. They just have a single AA battery. So that's what I would strongly recommend. And so you asked what kinds of light bulbs are best: incandescent, full spectrum. Um, I mean, in general, and Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong because I'm about to put words in your mouth. Uh, Incandescent are better in terms of EMF issues, because LED and compact fluorescent have separate but sort of similar issues about the EMF that they'll create in your environment, whereas incandescent don't have those issues. Of course, incandescent also use a lot more energy, and they can be incredibly difficult to find anymore. Isn't that right, Kathy?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we have in the Shield Your Body store, we have low blue light. We have blue light blocking bulbs. This is from the same company that makes the lamp. Although Kathy mentioned, and I haven't done this testing yet, that sometimes blue light blocking bulbs, because they're LED, can still contribute dirty electricity. So for that, we actually have dirty electricity free LED bulbs in the store as well. Those are from Satic. Too bad, I guess, so far OcuShield and Satic haven't gotten together to combine technologies so that you get a low dirty electricity blue light blocking bulb. But there are options. For now, I would say the OcuLamp is really a really good option on the light, and the Bagby alarm clock is good on the alarm clock. Then you get rid of the power strip, and you don't have it running right under your head while you sleep. Joan asked, do we ship to New Zealand? Yes, we do. Once again, if you're browsing my site and you're not using a VPN to pretend you're in some other country, any product you see is available to ship to you. New Zealand counts. So we have sets of rates for the U.S., Canada, UK, and then we have the whole rest of the world. And the rest of the world, it's a flat fee of $30 per order. and free for orders over $500. So if you're in New Zealand, it'll cost you either $30 or nothing to order from the Shield Your Body website, depending on if you spend more or less than $500. Someone just put into the chat again, so let me pull this up. Recommendations on meters. So I have this guide, and I'll put the link in the chat. This is a free guide. You just have to put this URL into a browser, and you'll get the guide. And it's a sort of a general audiences, how to test EMF for yourself. And it explains what the meters are, how to test. Not what the meters are, what the units are. Because there's all sorts of different units on these different meters. It explains the different kinds of meters and the different fields that they measure. And then it also has recommendations on meters. So we have, for instance, the Safe and Sound Pro is a very well regarded radio frequency meter. We have the descriptions of the Tri-Field and the Cornet, they both are more more affordable options that measure more types of EMF. So if you're interested in learning about what meters I recommend, I would, and how to use them and what the measurements mean, this is the book I would recommend that you just download. It's free. I put the link in the chat. If we use an outlet checker and it comes back as grounded, do we still need the NCB? Those are two different things, right? So if you use an outlet checker and the outlet isn't grounded, then you can't ground into that outlet, right? So the test needs to come back positive that the outlet is grounded for grounding even to work. Then what the NCB does is different, and that it helps clean EMF pollution off of the grounding wire. So the answer is those are two different things. But if your outlet tester says the outlet isn't grounded, then grounding into it will do nothing. Let's see. Amy says, do you need to put the SYB Faraday canopy away every day when you are not sleeping? No, you do not. That would be pretty impractical, I think, for most people anyway. So no, it's designed to just stay up, and you get into it at night, you get out of it in the morning. Let's see. Oh, okay. Could you talk about the bedroom window, say a big one that slides open, and the bed is situated a few feet away from it? What type of windows should we consider to let in the positive EMF and shield out the negative?
Well, that doesn't really, you can't really do that.
Yeah.
So Windows, most newer Windows these days are double pane, low E or low emissivity, which means that they block some UV frequencies, which means that they naturally will block some radio frequency, but it also means it blocks UVA and UVB, which can be beneficial. So you can't do both. You can't block the bad thing and let in the good thing. So if you have a window that you want to open, I suggest having a metal window screen on the outside of it that will effectively block radio frequency to a large degree, and then you can still get daylight in. I mean, that's really the best thing to do.
Yeah, and they also make RF shielding film that you can put on top of windows. Have you worked with that?
Yeah, that works well. But then you can't open the window.
Oh, okay. Thank
So,
you.
yeah.
And I think we have time here for one more question, and we have more questions now than when we started the Q&A session, but we're running up on 2 hours here. So one more question, and I like this one. It's another one from Amy. I live in a 400 square foot Right. I live in a 400 square foot studio. I can't turn off the breaker without turning off the heater in the fridge. Any other suggestions? Also, I heard that if you turn off the breaker, it's bad for the electricity system. So I'll answer the second part of that before handing it off to Kathy. It's not bad for the electricity system to turn off the breaker. The thing is breakers aren't really designed to be turned on and off every day. And so if you turn off the breaker and you're getting good results, right? You see the EMF is lower, and you're sleeping better, or however you're evaluating that, and you realize this is something you want to do. That's when you can consider upgrading to a kill switch that will effectively turn off the breaker, but without having to wear out the breaker itself. Did I capture that effectively, Kathy?
Yep, that's exactly right.
Okay, so then the first part of Amy's question, I can't turn off the breaker without turning off the heater in the fridge. Any other suggestions?
Yeah, well, this is where you need a meter to know where are the levels higher. So if you move the bed away from the wall, do the levels go down? They usually do. Can you put some shielding up? So you can shield the electric field potentially with, like we were talking about earlier, with some metal, some kind of metal, and you can ground it. You just you absolutely have to test though, because you never know what kind of results you're going to get. So you would want a field to test the electric fields. I'm sorry, you want a meter to test the electric fields, know what you're getting, and then see if you can move the bed away from the wall or shield to determine if that's going to be helpful.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Kathy. Thank you, everyone, for turning out for today's webinar on Sleep Sanctuary. And for those of you for whom it was your first experiencing a Cathy Cooke webinar, now you see why Kathy comes and does so many webinars, why I asked Kathy to come and do so many webinars for us. That was really fantastic coverage, Kathy. Really great information. As a reminder to everybody, the replay link to this webinar will be emailed to you tomorrow, so look out for it. And that email will also contain the 2 links that you see on your screen for the 2 special offers that you received tonight. That is 10 to 20% off everything in the Better Sleep collection on Shield Your Body. That includes the blue light glasses, the blue light bulb, the bed canopy, the Bagby clocks, the kill switches, everything in this category that can help you create a more harmonious bedroom environment. And 67% off of Kathy's Sleep Easy method, which you can find at bagby.co/sleep. You'll see more about the course there, and that is the only URL. That's the only link where you can get the 8-week course for just $167. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. I hope to see you at the next SYB and Bagby webinar. Have a great evening.
Bye, everyone.